Hello and welcome to Hearsay. I am your host, Diane Neal, and with me, as always, is my trusty producer, Danny. Hi, Danny. How you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you? I'm in Florida.
Ooh, you're in Florida, and I'm not in Florida.
And you're not in Florida, yeah.
I am just that. Although, it's so hard because where you are in Florida, even if we were simultaneously in Florida, it's so far apart. It's like a day's drive, no matter what. But can I tell you something really funny that was happening? So, who I was texting really brutally when we were trying to talk about the show?
Who?
That was my friend. It's really funny. She wouldn't mind if I said who she was. We were models together. So we've known each other forever. I actually met her on her 16th, 17th birthday in the subway system in Japan. I was going to work and she was coming back and covered in streamers and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. And I was like, hello. Because we were the only, I'm like, hello, white girls. Right. They were just a gaggle of really tall white girls on the other side of the platform. And they were like, yo, I'm a white girl. And I'm like, what are you doing here? They're like, we're models. I'm like, I figure, what agency? And we ended up with the same agency. And
wow.
Yeah,
cool.
So it was I'm like, I just arrived. I was here this evening. It was one of those, and everyone's just they're so everyone hates Americans, but they're like, oh my God, shut up. It's like early morning commute in Japan, and there's just all these monsters, like Mothra just screaming at everybody.
Especially Japanese culture, right? It's very
oh my gosh,
reserved.
Very subtle. Yes, reserved,
yeah.
Subtle, quiet.
Yeah.
I don't want to say timid or meek. Yeah. I like to brush hair. I like the streamers.
Okay, so
last night we got partying. You have my hat on. You have that club stamp. From across the platform. Show me your club stamps. Show them.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is perfect.
Wait, no, I wasn't even close to done with that story. So just put a pin in that one for a second.
Yes.
Okay, so she and I are texting rudely earlier when you and I are supposed to be having a discussion about things that are, this, which is real and fun. And we keep, by the way, I'm just a little aside, everyone. It is nobody's fault. It's not even my fault. Okay. I'm just going to call it the demonic forces allowed to roam in the universe, whose intention is to destroy you. Those are the forces that keep Danny and I from doing this sometimes. So don't think it's because we don't love it. We do. Okay. So by the way, that buddy, so we've been friends a long time now, almost 30 years. And she's now has a very fancy job in a medical profession, right? A couple of gorgeous and feral children, just scads of money. You know what I mean? Everything has gone well, right? Everything has gone well for her. And so we were talking just a minute ago, because obviously the tables have turned, and we were laughing, but she's she was going through all these boxes of stuff from when she was a kid that her mom finally made her take to her grown-up house, eventually. And it was full of all this crazy stuff that we did. Crazy, crazy stuff. And she's like, Diane, where can I send this? So I said, wait, hold on. I said, you can also just address it to the state that is like being in a Walmart all the time, even when you're outside. And I'm like, and it'll probably get to my house. And then she says to me, what are you talking? There aren't alligators in Walmart. And I said, I will bet you $1 billion right now that in some Walmart, at some point in time, there has definitely been an alligator inside. I'm like, I will bet you that billions of dollars. Next thing she shows me, hey, look at this. Look what starts coming up. Right? It's all the videos of all the times an alligator has been inside of a Walmart in Florida. My favorite one that I watched. Okay, this is the headline. Alligator walks into Florida Walmart, cited for trespass. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I watched the whole like piece on the local news about this alligator that was cited for trespass. And I'm like, and I said to my buddy, I'm like, oh my God, did you watch this? It did what all Floridians do. It hung out at Walmart for an hour and then left without buying anything. Sorry, Danny, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you're there. Look out for the Walmart gators.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, okay, so we were talking about how we're like, okay, like the theme of this episode is things that we were wrong about.
Oh my God.
And
yeah.
And can I just say, like, how silly was I thinking that I'm gonna fly to like one part of Florida and be like, oh yeah, just go visit Diane. Even if you were in Florida, I'm like, it looks so small on the map. I'm used to like New Mexico, Colorado.
No.
It's huge.
No.
It takes forever.
It's ridiculous. It's not irrational because it seems like everything. Okay, because look at what like sometimes we're like, let's drive to Durango for the weekend. It's like 8 hours, but it doesn't really seem like that much because I don't know. But like, there's something about Florida that like, yeah, you misjudge everything. Like, there's no way to. Oh my gosh, there's no way to like, yeah. By the way, it was that friend was texting me again. Like, all we can do is talk about the gators. Okay. I feel like that's fairly normal to misjudge the size of Florida. One thing before we do anything else, okay, and it's not that I'm even embarrassed to admit it. I'm just like, damn. Even I try to be so good when it comes to like things that are real, things that are not urban myths. I spend a ton of time looking up stuff, making sure it's right from all kinds of different sources that are reputable, peer reviewed, like that kind of thing. Danny, do you know what I was 100% wrong about?
It wouldn't have anything to do with like steamed chicken, would it?
It would indeed. Okay, so I'm totally wrong. Kentucky Fried Chicken is fried chicken, and they changed their name to try and rebrand because people weren't using long words like fried. So I ended up, I shouldn't have even gone on about that, but like I genuinely believe that, like in my soul, right? Like I believe that. And then a couple people were like, "You're wrong," and I'm like, "Well, let me pull this down and see." And I'm like, "Wow, I'm not just like a little wrong, like I'm a lot wrong." I'm totally wrong. And then I started looking into like how the urban legend became what it became, this whole like steamed chicken, and that's why they had to change the name. Like, and it's so bizarre. Like, it made like the whole thing about them changing their name just like totally irrelevant because that story was way more interesting. And I'm like, yeah. So I was wrong about that. My apologies to everyone who believed the same lie that I did. Danny, you have any other ones?
Well, one thing I was going to say is, first of all, I feel like that's why these kinds of things persist for so long often, right? It's because sometimes a story is like, feels like it's one of those stranger than fiction things, but it's actually not stranger than fiction. It's just fiction.
Right.
But it just feels so good. Like I actually had cut, like a few weeks prior, I cut something out of the podcast that I had said, where I was saying something about a lawsuit reaching from a news station, the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court basically saying, hey, this is, it's legal to lie in news. That never happened. So thankfully in that one, I caught it before we actually published the podcast.
Right.
But one thing that I will say that I was completely wrong about, not fact checking podcasts in general. Like I should be fact checking the podcast, right? Like I should probably be like, oh, hey, like we talked about this thing. And as your producer, I should let you know when there's something that you said that might not be accurate, right?
No, but I should also know. Sorry, like seriously. Oh my God. I'm going to vomit. I was listening to you. I'm being.
Don't lie, Diane. You didn't hear a word. No, just kidding.
Like a quarter. No, I'm not. I mean, like, I'm seriously, like, life. There's so much that I would love to talk about. That, for whatever reason, Nakanda. But it's awful. It explains why. I mean, like, can you guess which gas station bathroom I'm in? Can you even guess? Like, take a stab. You think it's an
It looks like a
Exxon?
Shell station to me. Looks like
Shell.
Shell, but I don't know if they have Shell on the East Coast. I
No,
haven't
they
seen one
do.
since I've been here.
No, they.
They
Yeah,
do?
yeah. They do.
Okay.
No, I kind of thought like I'm not gonna give it
It
away.
looks like
Maybe
an
like
old Shell though, like a super old Shell.
yeah, it's like a pretty super old anything. But
I
the
like
point
that they
being,
have
yeah,
a shower in it though.
and they do.
It
You know
looks like
what?
there's a shower. What?
For truckers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we might be in a TA. We could be in a Flying
Oh,
J's.
true. Yes, there are a couple different options there.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interest.
Yeah. Um, the thing, well, so this goes back to one of the things that I was most wrong about, and something that was like it came up on a Daily Show recently. I don't know if you saw this. Not the Daily Show. Excuse me. Last week tonight with John Oliver. My bad. I always think of like when John Oliver he guest hosted the Daily Show when Jon Stewart was gone. And he was so good at it. I mean, that's obviously why they gave
He
him the
was.
HBO show, but like he was really good even at the Daily thing. Like it again, not knocking Trevor Noah. I do enjoy Trevor Noah. It's just, a couple varieties, the same thing. All right. So last week tonight with John Oliver, and they were talking about how like a lot of like crime shows are propaganda, and that's not how it really works. And so it's kind of perpetuating this myth. And then it's like you and I were talking about. It's unfortunately, most people of color have had interactions with law enforcement. It's like a far higher percentage than anyone white. And then most of those interactions are negative. So, if you tell, but it's not the case, like, which it tells you everything you need to know about our society, right? Because it's not the case with white people that almost no interaction for the most part over a socioeconomic threshold with law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. And it's never negative, right? Like it's not like they beat you, like it's not. It's like they didn't listen to me when I told them about my stolen diamond. So you get this like really skewed perception of how things be. And I'm like, I played the freaking DA on the show. And like, I thought that is exactly, I mean, obviously I knew it was a television series. Like I didn't think things ended in 44 minutes, like, oh, it all wraps up,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But because like the only exposure I'd really ever had to law enforcement was either like its own propaganda, like on the cars, protect and serve, or, like, we're here to protect, like all that kind of crap. Or, what you see on TV or what I pretended to be on TV. And
Right.
so like you get, and so like until it happens to you, like I was 1,000% wrong. I was 1,000% wrong. And that doesn't mean like what cracks me up is all these people like, how can you knock the show? And I'm like, I'm not knocking the show at all. Everyone knows it's a TV show, it's for entertainment. The thing is, that should not also be people's guidelines to like what it's like when you're actually reporting crimes or interacting with the police. Like it has become that thing because nothing exists in real life, which is the real problem. It's not what the show is a problem. It's like, that's a problem. And, bridging that gap. Cause like, you don't know. Like I really thought like if you reported, like I thought that they would take things seriously and actually like, I don't know, like investigate and do stuff. And it was wild. So I put a call out on Twitter. I'm like, hey, anyone, if you've had this kind of thing where you had an idea about what law enforcement does and then like how it worked in reality, let me know. Danny, it was, I cannot, if anyone's listening that I haven't gotten back to you yet, I apologize because I'm trying to get back to everyone personally. It is so many people and it's horrifying. And like, and that's the thing, like you want to like, you want to be able to tell people, like, okay, report your crime. That's the right thing to do. And then when you've done nothing but pay for it, how do you tell anyone to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of, like, first of all, the law is very inconsistent, and the way that the law is enforced is very inconsistent state to state. But then within almost every state, there are so many, I think, bad incentives. There are, there's
arbitrary discretion, like things that are.
There's so many things that can go wrong at so many stages in the process. And like, I know, like, I have a friend that was a quote unquote victim advocate. It's a position that they were in at a government, like at a court, basically. And just hearing some of the things that are part of that job description, it's crazy, like what people go through and then how ineffective the system is at dealing with that. And how victims, because when you work with victims all the time, most victims, unfortunately, the vast majority of victims never see justice.
It's shocking. And one of those things, talking about like, misleading me and the chicken, fair enough. Absolutely wrong. 100% wrong, right?
Yeah.
But like, when you hear about these like case closed statistics, which sound horrifying already. They're like, only 9% of cases and, like X, Y, and Z police department were ever closed, right? Like 9%. You're like, oh, terrible. Case closed means they could just drop the case. It doesn't mean they solved the crime. It doesn't mean that someone went to jail or pled guilty. It just meant, we looked into it. We didn't think there was enough there, so we closed the case.
Oh.
So that 9% includes like that.
Yeah.
When you realize how little is happening, it is mind-blowing. And then you get things like judicial discretion, and you get all kinds. It is just, the system is so unbelievably flawed, and there are kind of no consequences for bad behavior, for incompetence, for all kinds of things. And it's really disheartening because you think of all the people that can be hurt by being, like I was, so entirely wrong about what law enforcement very often, it's not even what they don't do. This seems to be the rule, not the exception. That this is the way. And we've all met great cops, and we are like related to someone that's amazing and like totally believes. But like, the more I'm like, wow, it's kind of, it's a lot. But yeah, so I was really wrong about that, and I was wrong about it in a way that like it definitely contributed to like my own like personal harm, and hopefully I hope I didn't contribute to anyone else's, because I feel bad. It's one of those things that you don't find out till years later. And again, it's not that it's in absolutely like no way that the show is bad or shouldn't be on the air. But I think that's another reason like people love it so much and like need Benson and like need Stablers, because there's nothing in between. There's no justice.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because at the end of the day, like, I think so much of what we see on TV, and this isn't just Law and Order, this is like so many different TV shows. It's like there are still shows today where the cops have to approve it in order for that show to be aired.
Yeah. It's actually done with like the military and stuff as well too. Like, usually have to get like approval. They actually have, like in LA, and they have an office with like every branch of the service has someone there whose job it is to like review scripts and things like that.
Right. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I actually almost got a job at a police station, basically straight up creating propaganda, like propaganda.
No.
Yes, they were looking for like a digital marketing video type person, and I was like, oh, okay, like I didn't really I was applying for so many jobs that I didn't even look at the job listing really. I just looked at like basically what the requirements are, if I met them, doing that seemed fun. And then it was only after I applied that I realized it was for a police department. And I was like, oh, wow. First of all, how weird is it that they have that position. It's a police department. It's not the city.
It is. No, it's very odd. Yeah.
It's a police department, And then after I realized that, I was like, yeah, I'm not really sure. Because personally, I haven't really had a lot of great interactions with law enforcement.
Oh, how odd. So, once again, it's like,
yeah. Oh. Yeah. So it's weird that I think that a lot of times, I think that we are in need of a lot of reform, right? And it's not to say, again, like what you were saying, like cops, not all cops are bad. Well, not even a majority of cops are bad. But also like there are the way that the system functions, it fails so many people.
Yeah.
And to varying degrees. Like if you look at the murder solve rate for white people compared to black people, it's like, I don't have the numbers on hand.
No, and I'm not laughing at that.
So different.
Like I'm literally like, I'm like thinking of it this way, right? Like, okay, let's say only, again, 9% of cases, right? Like get resolved, right? Like resolved. Would we in any way, shape or form, so that's 91% that do not, right? Would we let 91% of chicken onto the market that was just teeming with salmonella? Do you know what I mean? Would we let 91% of the people getting onto a plane with weapons get onto the plane? Would we let like it's so
or like the remaining 9%? Yeah,
right. No. I mean, like, yeah. Either way you do it, you know what I mean? Like, no, you've got no weapons, no fly for you. Or like, you got no weapons, get on the plane. But it's just like any way you cut it, like nobody would stand for anything only being working 9%, and like not even really working, but kind of working. Like if your internet only works like partially 9% of the time, like you would spaz out.
Right.
You would spaz. And like, so, I mean, besides those heinous discrepancies, and that's like the other thing that I found like in this whole experience, that is something I never in my wildest nightmares would have found myself in. But it's so funny. You tell like your white friends like, oh, and the first thing they say to you is like, I don't know, that sounds crazy. Like if that were true, why wouldn't the cops have done something? And then you tell any of your friends of color, right? And they're like, oh, you wanted the cops to do something? And how'd that work out for you? Yeah, right. Not at all. Like there's like, it's not even a question,
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're talking about discrepancy and murder. I mean, it's just.
Oh yeah. Like that's one thing. And there was another, like I watched a documentary recently and it's not a new documentary. It's like 3 years old. But it's a really good documentary in terms of like how sometimes systems fail. But it's not necessarily like let's do a deep dive in how police departments work. It was just about a particular person who was posting videos online of killing cats.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And one of the things that was crazy about it is because these videos were getting posted online, nobody really knew where he was posting them from. Mm-hmm. So basically, no law enforcement anywhere in the world wanted to investigate it.
And by the way, quick question. Were these like, is this a real thing? Was he actually doing like cat snuff films?
Yeah, he was actually killing cats on film. They were real, like it wasn't staged. So what ended up happening is a bunch of people got together on Facebook. They formed a group. They did so much more to solve this case than any law enforcement agency did. And they, based on his behavior and the pattern of behavior, they were able to, and things that were in the background, and like TV recordings they heard in the background, that kind of stuff. They were able to pinpoint him to being a candidate, but Canadian law enforcement agencies didn't care. They were just like, you guys, like, this is just some online
on my desk,
doohickey thing. Like, they get them all of the information that they needed.
Yeah, just like,
right. And finally, they were able to get like the Toronto police to kind of like take information from them and like learn from it. But then he just moved to Montreal, and all of a sudden, different jurisdiction, and they had to start all over again with the law enforcement agency that would take them seriously. And they suspected throughout this entire situation that the killer would move on to killing humans.
Yeah,
and sure enough, he killed a human, and it was something that could have been
Prevented.
if law enforcement actually
And that's the thing
functioned
too.
more
Right.
effectively.
You can hand them evidence on a silver platter. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the
Yep.
things that of the things I learned, should always take people with you, record anything you can, always have witnesses. This is what, when dealing with law enforcement, I'm not talking about when dealing with law enforcement, but,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah, you can literally give them all of the evidence that they need.
They don't care.
But if they don't have motivation, like if they don't have incentive to actually look at it, they won't.
Right. And the thing is, what people don't understand is that with DAs, it's 100% discretionary. There is literally nothing. Say someone went and chopped 15 people's heads off, right? If I'm the DA and I don't want to charge him with murder, I don't want to take him, he doesn't have to. I don't have to. There's literally no thing that says, oh yeah, those are crimes. So even if you get it past the police, right? Even if you get law enforcement to investigate, even if you get them to do it in a timely way before statute of limitations are run out and everything else, even if you get that far, and then it finally gets to the DA's office, well, then you got to hold that the DA is yeah, I'm interested in that case, or because if they're not, that's it. It ends there.
Yeah, there are some DAs, and then of course, we should probably just note that I know that it's different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Yeah. But speaking of jurisdiction, it's always varies. Don't take our word for anything legal. Check with someone legal first. This is just our experience.
We were wrong about KFC, so we might be wrong about
a lot of stuff.
It's complicated.
We only know about our own experiences, but yeah, we could be wrong about all kinds of stuff.
But yeah, I do know a lot of DAs around the country oftentimes will only take cases that they're hey, you know what really matters a lot is my conviction rate.
Yes.
How many people I can actually convict. And so there are certain cases, and this is where we get back to sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual assault cases are notoriously difficult to convict people on. And so a lot of times I think DAs often will just be well, this is a he said, she said thing, and who even knows what happened. And even if they are fed evidence on a silver platter, they're looking at this case sometimes and they're this could, first of all, there's no incentive to even look at that evidence, because can you actually convict someone of this crime? And how good is the evidence really? Right. And then if they do look at it, it's a huge risk for them to take that on.
Right.
Because the conviction rates are so low. And then a lot of times DAs are elected offices. And if they take on a bunch of sexual assault cases and their conviction rate goes down, then it's then
they're out of office.
Bad for their election. Yeah. So it is really the way that our system incentivizes and disincentivizes is just really
so for the
harmful,
people, for the people in elected DA positions, you explained it exactly right. And then then you've got the junior, this what would be the associates in private practice, but the ADAs who mostly are doing it, working their butts off for almost no money, incredible hours every week, incredible caseloads, and they're mostly doing it for the experience. And so that they can get that high conviction rate, so that when they're done after the first few years, they can go to a white shoe law firm and command the highest money possible. And conviction rate is a big part of that. Part of that.
Yeah. It's just insane to realize on so many levels, yes, we're lucky that we do have a lot of things in place, but I think the system is so much more broken than people realize. And at the end of the day, oh, you know what is riveting, Diane?
Tell me.
But this is awful.
Tell me. What?
That new series that just got released, Dahmer on Netflix.
What is it?
Dahmer, about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, I can't.
I know. I normally don't watch those kinds of shows. Well, I might watch the investigative, documentary style, but the dramatization ones are too much for me. But just that case in general, the number of times that the police failed to catch him when it should have been so easy for them to do so. They walked into a room with a dead body in it and didn't see the dead body.
No, it is. Seriously? Okay. Also, this is the thing that drives me crazy is people were oh, this is crazy. This can't happen in real life. And I'm how the hell did they make like 3 decades of Datelines? You know what I mean? About the dad that buried the mom and poured her in the new cement floor of the garage. You know what I mean? And nobody found out for 20 years. Or like, or like, oh, they're like, oh, the cops don't do their job. Really, Diane? I'm like, yeah, a freaking podcaster married to Patton Oswalt found the Golden State Killer after 50 years, and he was a damn cop. You know what I mean? Or like, you think of like the gymnasts, these poor gymnasts who were going to the FBI about their creepy Dr. Nasser for like decades and decades and decades. All of them, their lives being destroyed in the process, right? No one, it takes decades. Or like Epstein. Like, that's the other thing. Like, people are like, how many decades and like how many women? Cosby, how many decades? How many women? How many decades and how many women? So like all these people, like me, like I shouldn't have been shocked before. Like I shouldn't have been shocked. But I'd always be like, oh, that sounds impossible. And now I think about it, I'm like, no, that actually sounds like it happens the most. That's actually that is how everything usually is.
Yeah, yes, not only is it implausible, it's like it's the most likely.
Right. It's the most likely thing that's going to happen. Right. And you should, and that's like the bummer too. Like you shouldn't be a victim of a crime, and to be the safest you can be for yourself, to have zero expectation.
Right.
Like that's messed up. Yeah, you know what? You should have zero. Go do it. It's the, supposedly the right thing to do, but just have zero expectation. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Crazy.
Well, the thing that, that's great. Let's talk about, by the way, can we talk about something more interesting?
Sure. What? Should I do that with more like success? Sure. What?
Like Danny, I was thinking about ordering dinner on Uber Eats.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Because I'm really hungry.
I got a free Uber Eats meal the other day.
Did you?
Actually, this is probably something I'm wrong about. I just haven't figured out how yet.
Like, basically, like as wrong as I was about the KFC thing, or like less wrong, or less consequentially wrong.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
All I know is I ordered food on Uber Eats, and I never ended up paying for it. And I keep looking at all my different cards, and I can't figure out where. Yeah, like, where did I pay for it? Like, how? Because what happened is I tried to pay for it with, like when your card gets expired, it's so you have to get a new card, but it's the same number.
Yeah.
So it was the same number, but it was expired. So I tried to pay for it
so it was like a different code, right?
Yeah, like the expiration date, and I think security code is different. So it failed. So I changed it to Apple Pay, and it like glitched. And it just was like, it never actually prompted me to choose my Apple Pay card or anything.
But you got food out of it?
I got food.
Wow.
And so, and it was like a good $40, $50 meal.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I would say like normally, like if you ask, like if I walked out of a store with like 40 or $50 worth of anything, I'd be like, oh, and I'd like take it back in. Right. But here's the problem with like the companies like Uber Eats or any of those. You can't even get anyone on the phone to give them back the money. You know what I mean? Like you could spend the next 5 hours of your life just going from like weird chatbot to chat. Like if you're never gonna be like,
it's so true.
Yeah.
It is so true.
So like, I'm glad you got it. And like, if I'm sure if any of us had a button.
I have a feeling that I didn't get it for free and I'm just like, haven't figured it out yet.
Because crap like that happens. Okay, okay, this is a crazy thing that happened recently. Stop me if I've told you about it. So, one of my pals was over and she's having a real tough time too. And we were kind of lamenting and laughing and talking about miracles and like expecting miracles and that kind of thing. Like trying to keep the hope alive, right? She goes to bed that night. The next morning, I get this phone call from, you're never going to believe it. You're never going to believe it. And I'm like, slow down. What's happening? What's happening? She had gone to bed. Let's just pick a number. I don't know how much it was. Let's just say $8,000, like in all of her accounts. She woke up with $109,000 in all of her accounts.
Oh my God.
And I was like, it's since last month. I'm like, it's an August miracle. By the way, these are things that if it ever does happen to you, don't ever trust anyone on a podcast or YouTube to tell you how to deal with it. This is like actually check with a lawyer, because like we were sitting we were sitting there debating it, and I was just like, well, don't they? It's their mistake. Don't you get to keep it? You know what I mean? Like that extra milkshake they make. You know, if you're at Shake Shack.
Yeah.
No, wrong about that. Totally wrong about that.
You know what? Just as a personal piece of advice, and I want everyone to know how often I'm wrong, as we've been talking about.
Yeah, a whole lot of wrong.
Episode.
All of us.
What I would recommend you do if you ever get that amount is take that money. First of all, immediately move it to a different bank, and then from there, gamble with it. Like try and multiply it multiple times over, because nothing can go wrong doing that.
No, ever. And I'm not going to say what was or was not attempted. In the hours between the waking up with a discovery of such a nature to when it was abruptly stopped. I'm just going to say several routes were attempted. It was interesting. No one was harmed at the end of the day, and but yeah, it was one of those. It was what a weird thing to happen, though. I've never gone to bed and woken up with more money.
That's crazy. Yeah, I wish that happened to me, although I'm sure it was short lived. Usually they catch those things pretty quickly.
Yeah, this lasted like a good 4 hours. But you know what? For that 4 hours, you know,
you felt on top of the world.
Like it wasn't even me, right? Because it wasn't mine. But I was just like, and I knew it was probably going to go away. But like for 4 hours, like miracles could happen. You know, it's like it was like the double rainbow all the way across the sky. What does it mean? It means 101K put in your bank account in the middle of the night. You know, like it was awesome. Yeah,
I'd be like, oh my God. I've been applying for loans. I didn't know that they just give them to you.
They just direct deposit money.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So
do you want to know something else I was wrong about? Can I tell you one more?
Yes, tell me. Tell me.
This is really embarrassing. This is really embarrassing, but this is true. But I didn't realize it until recently. So, you know, I was very lucky at a very young age in my teens to start making, you know, more than anyone else my age was making. That's for sure. And then, you know, like buying my first building in my 20s, and like, you know, I was doing all right. As you and I both know, Daniel, due to circumstances beyond my control, while living bathroom to bathroom and gas station to gas station. Anyway, I don't have it anymore, but I had it for like the majority of my adult life. And now I'm not kidding. When I'm around friends who say stuff like, oh yeah, I'm flying my mom out. And I'm like, I'm sure he's flying about like business. And they're like, yeah, I'm so expensive this time, like 11 grand, you know, and like, right. Okay. Right. Or like, oh, I love the purse. Well, it was more than what I wanted to pay. What did you want? I was like, I would have been happy with like 15 or 16, but like to have to pay 20,000 for it, like I feel a little jet. Right. Like, okay. So now I hear stuff like that and I'm like, shut up. You are killing me. You are killing me. I would give anything to have what you just spent on that effing purse, or for your old raisin of a mother who it weighs 85 pounds and wouldn't take up half a normal seat anyway. Feel free to like, seriously, I was so wrong, Danny, because I'm sure I said hardcore douche baggy stuff like that all the time. And people just wanted to murder me. And you know what? Made me right. Sorry. Like, it's not that I just came
Isn't it so crazy? Like I've never been wealthy before, but I have had periods of time where I've been really, really super, super poor, all the way to like, I guess like decently middle class, and then kind of like back down again lately.
Right.
Yeah. And it is like, it's crazy. Like the different things, like the way that your mindset changes. Like even just recently, I realized I was like, yeah, I'm I'm buying dollar shampoo from the Dollar Tree nowadays.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily because I have to, but for a long time, I was like, oh, I can't do that because I don't want lead in my hair. There's probably lead in my hair.
Danny, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I'm going to admit this to people because here's also, let me preface this by saying, because I didn't start out like in the acting world or anything like that, and I came from like a normal family, like I never felt special. And I was like, and even being on SVU was like a really amazing lesson on that it comes, it goes, right? Like, don't take it too seriously, all that kind of stuff. So I always tried to stay like very like down to earth, what I thought was like down to earth and like normal and, like, and stuff like that. And tried to be really aware. So like if I invited someone somewhere, like I invited you, I expect to pay because, I used to hate that stuff when I was broke, where like people invite you to lunch and you have like a piece of lettuce and then everyone's like, let's split it evenly. And it's like, like $1,000 each. Like I hated that stuff. So I always tried to be on top of that. Obviously, at some point, I lost it. Danny, I used to pay at Barney's for just my conditioner. And it's only like 8 ounces. I'd have to check the tube. I don't think I have a tube of that anymore. I don't know why I looked down like I could check the tube. Anyway, $170.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm sorry. I feel like the things I don't feel like I wasted money on were helping people that I loved, travel, and good food. But there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, wow. And then talking about it must have like made so many people so angry. And I'm so sorry. I was so wrong about that.
Yeah. You know what? That's funny that you mentioned that because I've been thinking about things also like along the lines of like things that I was wrong about in terms of purchases. Like things that I should have never bought that I thought were going to be useful or was going to like work.
Okay, please.
That were just like the worst.
Okay, I can name mine off the top of my head, but I want to hear yours. First. Do you have anything in mind?
I feel like there's so many travel things. Like now that I'm trying to travel more and do more things, like there are so many travel items that you could just spend like hundreds of dollars.
Are you talking about like little accessories, like good bags and like little shrinky things? And things
little like travel towels. But guess what? No matter where in the world you travel to, there's always a towel.
Always a towel. Always a towel.
Yeah. I mean, you might every now and then end up at an Airbnb that doesn't have a towel.
And that would be real weird.
It would be pretty weird.
Yeah.
And you have to like message the host and be like, hey,
right.
Do you have a towel?
Right.
And they'll probably be like, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. If they don't, there's a Walmart down the street with an alligator in it that you can buy like a towel for $50. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like travel towel, like don't buy a travel towel unless maybe if you're going camping and you're going like on a long hike.
I have like camping towel. Yeah. You're spending the night, you have like, gonna go swim in the river.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know. Also, that would be something.
Do you regret some of like your travel thing purchases?
I feel like, yes, some of the things that I got are like not the most useful.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess it happened. But I feel like I don't know if I could ever regret anything as much as buying a $170 8-ounce thing of conditioner. Like that sounds like, especially at this stage.
Oh, there are
I
things.
can understand why you'd be like, "Oh my god!" There are
things that I regret so much more than that. Like,
what is your okay? Can I ask? Sorry, can I ask you?
Yeah.
Give like, physical. Like, if you could only express in picture form, with emotion, how much you regret. The biggest thing you regret. What would it look like? Would it be like?
Oh, hold on.
Wait.
At the time of purchase, okay, I'm gonna tell you the story around it. I'll do the faces, and then you have to guess what it was. Okay. So this was like there's a baseball player in the Yankees called Jorge Posada who has since retired, right? And his big gala every year was for this horrible condition that affects like kids' craniums, and it was like really good. And so I get put at a table this particular year with A-Rod, Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams. Like, I'm not even into sports. It's like the greatest team of the greatest sports team out of all sports in the history of sports, right? Like that's who I'm at a table with. And I am with my best friend Ben's wife. And, obviously I don't drink now. It's been a very long time. And I didn't stop, by the way, I didn't stop drinking because I have like a problem. I just also did it so rarely that I'm really bad at it. Like I was never good at it because I started late in life. So even if you do it like once every couple, like just suck at it, just suck at it. So, Aviv and I were a little bit like, "Meh," and we were having so much fun. And I didn't realize this was a bad thing. I was having them all sign a baseball for me for like my neighbor that was dying. Like I knew it was going like in a coffin, but like they probably didn't. They're like, I can't believe she's doing this. This is going to be like the most expensive baseball in history. By the way, which is in a coffin somewhere in Jersey. But anyway, so I'm like, oh, God, I wish I kept that. I'm kidding. Yeah. So, I start bidding. Now, I just bought a brand new SUV for husband market, right? Like there was nothing was good enough. He always wanted to switch up and trade and all that. He just gotten a brand new one. But, was it work? Some big baseball player was auctioning off their brand new giant SUV that was like fully kitted out, right? Like this thing had like shiny rims, like pearl. It was glorious. And I'm not good with alcohol. And I decided this was the greatest idea in the world to start bidding on, right? Like, oh, I'm going to bid on this. And Aviv's egging me. Don't have the money. Totally unnecessary. It's up to like $100,000. Okay. I'm not kidding you. Like this was like insane. And by the way, there are pictures of this night, and I can tell you how the picture, you'll know, like if you go to Getty Images, I'm an idiot. I'm like standing up, like doing the space, like, yay, like bidding on this while wearing like the Miss America thing, because Miss America was at our table too. And I'm like wearing her sash, like hammered, wearing like Miss America sash, like badly bidding on this car that I absolutely do not need in any way, shape, or form. Bernie Williams. Oh, wait, hold up. It's like, I got to let Charlie out. Hold up. Oh my God. I'm coming back. Get out of here. Okay. Bernie Williams saves my life. He can tell that I'm no sound mind, right? And Bernie Williams says, like, I'm gonna keep it, and his wife, where they were amazing. They're like, just keep that arm down. Keep that arm down. And they're like, you know what? We could use that for our son. It's for a good cause. And they're just like literally like holding my arm down and be like, sorry. And then Bernie Williams buys it, right? While holding my arm down, saving me money I don't have for a thing that I already just bought, right? Like, thank you, Bernie Williams. Until the day I die, thank you. However, I'm like, oh, come on, Bernie, you took my phone, right? That's like I'm
yeah,
well tipsy.
Trying to spend over 100,000.
I'm obviously slightly inebriated, right? So, and Aviv's like, yeah, we need something. Like, while we're wearing this, I mean, just such jackasses, like jackasses. And Bernie says, I'll let you bid on that. And I see this thing and I'm like, oh, I have to have that. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Aviv was like, yeah, you do. I'm like, oh, it's happening. She's like, it's coming. I'm like, it's coming home with us, right? So we bid on this thing, okay? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I think there's actually a picture online of we winning the bid. I'm like, Arr! I'm like, would you like to know what it was and what my feeling was after realizing that I'd made this decision? So the next morning, I'm not feeling awesome. I'm like, ow. And I get this call saying, Miss Neal, I'm calling from, Mr. Pisano's charity. And you had the winning bid, as you know, on this item. We need you to pick it up today or tomorrow. This is Saturday or Sunday. Today or tomorrow in Manhattan. We have delivered the item to your publicist's office. Now, my publicist, who I only had a publicist for like a minute, she was like on the 19th. She's on the 20th floor of a building that the elevator only went to 19. So the last floor you had to walk up to the top. It was really weird. And I was like, I'm like, just refresh my memory. What exactly did I purchase again? Oh, Miss Neal, you purchased the life-size stuffed elephant. I am not kidding, Danny.
Okay, can I just say, I can see both why you regret buying it, but also why you were so excited to buy it, because that sounds amazing.
I know. And it was a stuffed animal. And but it was so huge. It had a steel infrastructure. It had steel infrastructure inside. Now, mind you, this effing thing is easily 3 times the size of the bathroom that I'm in. I mean, it is higher than the ceiling, for sure.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt. And it has somehow been delivered to the 20th floor of a building where there's only an elevator that goes from 19 down. Not only that, so I'm like, I tell Marcus this, right? But he's like, oh, geez, Diane, you've got yourself into this mess, you're gonna have to get yourself out of it, right? And I'm like, come on. So I called my best friend Ben, Abeem's husband, and he's like, oh mate, you want to be really in it? You stepped in it last night. That's it for you too. You're going to have to go do this one yourselves. I'm like, why do you hate us? So we get in the big SUV that I had just bought for Marcus, right? That Bernie Williams saved me from purchasing a second of. And we drive it. And this was like in the 20s on 5th Avenue on a Saturday, right? We get out. We like park it legal. It's the kind of shit you do, like when you're like a little too, like I don't even remember. We just parked it legally in front of the building. We take that elevator out. We walk up the last flight of stairs. I had no recollection of it being that monstrous. It was adorable and it was so huge. Danny, it wouldn't even fit in the damn elevator. We had to carry it down 20 flights of stairs, right? And that huge thing.
So when they delivered it there, they delivered it through the stairs?
Yes! 20 flights up! 20 flights up! Wait, by the way, this isn't like I had like a doctor's appointment today. So I have yeah. So I have no idea. So we were like, when you're carrying something awkwardly shaped and the steps are really narrow, so you have to like hold it up above the railing, and then like up and above. We had to do that for 20 flights and completely hungover. Like we were not well. We finally get it out onto 5th Avenue, right? And my car is like being moved by the cop. It was insane. So I'm like, oh, babe, you stay here with the elephant, right? She's like, with an elephant on 5th Avenue, this huge elephant. I like go chasing after I was like, what's going on? They're like, can't park here. I'm like, I had to get that elephant. And they were like, and they looked and they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, I know. I'm like, I gotta have the car to get the elephant out, right? That was like one of the benefits of being, like, this was like, peak SVU years, right? So at least the cop knew who I was and it was fine. So I get my car back and then I'm like, officer, I'm just going to lean it here for a minute. So I run back to a beat and we're trying to, this thing is so heavy. It's so heavy and there's no good way to carry it because its legs are so high. You can't even get underneath it and we finally got it to, and I had a huge, one of those irrational SUVs, right? This is what Marcus wanted. Geez, I'm an eco guy. Obviously not. You want the giant gas guzzler. Anyway, wouldn't fit inside. I don't even know why we thought that was even a possibility. So we had to lash this elephant to the roof of the giant car, to the roof, and then drive it to New Jersey, where I was living at the time, because SVU filmed in New Jersey.
Oh my God. I would have loved to see you driving down the road with that.
It was so huge. We didn't even, I'm like, are we going to make it through the tunnel? This is insane. So then getting it in the house was its own special nightmare. Finally got it in the house. It ended up having a room of its own for 6 months because it was that big. You could do nothing. If you needed, there was nothing else that could be done with that room because that was the elephant's room. But it was also the elephant's room. The best was the elephant's room was on the top floor, right? So and so the way brownstones work, they're very tall and narrow, and they have a bunch of windows in the front and the back, and then obviously nothing in the middle, and because you're attached to other houses, so there are no windows on the sides, just tons to the front and the back. So the elephant was in its own room, but kind of parallel with all the windows in front. Now, my B-screen bean, like all Aussie blokes, is a real rough and tumble kind of boy. You know, so anyway, one night we're all playing cards or something. Ben takes a look at the elephant. He's like, oh, it's time somebody tamed that beast. Full like Steve Irwin like mode. Runs at this thing like full throttle, jumps on its back. Here's the problem though, Danny. Ben is like a 6'3", like at the time, 230-pound bloke, right? The elephant's steel infrastructure really wasn't meant to handle that weight at a speed, you know, like with the extra force from the speed. One of its back legs crumples. Ben almost eats it, flying out the window. It was so crazy, Danny. It was so crazy.
My what floor was it? Third floor?
Floor.
Oh my God.
He almost got killed by jumping like an elephant. Like, can you imagine what that funeral would have been like?
Wow.
Like, I love their children. Can't imagine if those girls didn't exist. And like, because their future father, like, jumped on a stuffed elephant a little too hard.
Yeah, that's insane. Talk
Anyway.
about being wrong.
Yeah. So
that was just a wrong move to attempt.
Oh my gosh. And like, God love Ben. He breaks everything he touches. Like he like, and it's none of it's intentional, but like, you know, we'd have like a barbecue. So like I'd have one of those huge lemonade jars that have like a spigot on it, you know, fresh. He literally and the spigot would just like fall off and it would just like shoot lemonade out. You know, like anything he went near would just like instantly disintegrate. But
that is hilarious.
yeah, it's that elephant, man, of even like trying to get that thing down Fifth Avenue, so hungover, just feeling threatened with like the cops. Like I'm like, no, can't make her.
Yeah. So how did you end up? How did you end up getting rid of it?
Oh, Danny, I tried to give this thing away to every children's hospital, foster home, shelter, anything, anywhere with children that would love this thing. A little heads up to anyone that wants to donate stuff. Plush toys, right? Because this was like a giant stuffed animal. It just happened to have like a steel infrastructure that obviously could not withstand 230 pounds of Aussie running at it, but otherwise was quite sturdy. But anything that's considered plush, like stuffed animal, no one will accept it because for safety hazard reasons.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, and then I thought about shaving it, but then I was like, that's not going to do any good. It's still material. And then
still fabric.
Yeah. And then,
I would love to see you shave a giant elephant. Though.
Here's the thing, and here's the thing too. Okay, so like, and this is going to be one of those douchebaggy things that I used to say that now I know is douchey. But like, I bought the whole building, and then and then it had originally been multiple apartment, right? And then I turned it into a single family house, right? So I had more room than almost anyone in the tri-state area, and the elephant had to take up an entire room, right? So almost anyone else on earth that's living in a studio or one bed, there's no place for this thing, right? There's no apartment big enough, right? I owned the whole building and it was not big enough for the elephant. It was that big.
Yeah.
So one stretch of days when like the weather was going to be good for like 5 days in a row, we were like, that's it. It took like seven of us to get this thing out of the house, right? And we ended up doing it through one of the windows and like getting a whole pulley system and lowering it. I mean, again, what was I thinking? Like, what was I thinking? Daddy, what was I thinking? What? And like, by the way, every moment of the stuff that had happened with this elephant, like, it was seriously like, why? Why, you moron? What are you doing, you idiot person? Anyway.
Yeah.
So finally get it out and like put something like a tarp down so it's like feet don't get dirty. Like get it kind of half in the road. Because like live on a side street, a lot of business on that street, right? Put a flashing light on it and a big sign that said free.
You didn't. You did not.
Yeah, because I
did it work?
Well, so this, by the way, This was literally taking up a room of my home for over 6 months. Right. And when I said I called every charity, like, I don't want to waste this thing. Like, it should go. Cannot be done. Not possible. Tried everything. So I'm like, okay, since the street, you can kind of see it if you're driving by. If you see the flashing red light, you might be like, what's that? Like turn or come back around. So I'm like, maybe that's the only way there's going to be enough traffic to get anyone to see the free sign. And finally, it was like the third day. And so they're like, we cover it up at night, so we like stay fresh. Like just in case there's like a surprise shower. And like, not, like it was so big. By the way, like we lived in kind of a ghetto, like and then like New Jersey City, which has now just been voted the most expensive city in America to live. It was not gentrified back then, which was fine. Like, we didn't we loved all of our neighbors, but like, it was not. It was like the most dangerous place to live in America, not the most expensive. Like it was, and no one stole it. Like that's how big it was. Like no one even tried, Danny. So finally, it's like the third day, and I was just like sitting on the stoop, and I was like, "Are we gonna have to take a chainsaw to it?" Like I'm like, this is terrible, right? You don't have to do that. And this car comes up, and then it stops, and I just hear like this couple talking. And they're like walking towards me, but they're looking at the elephant and they're not paying attention at all, like to anything else. They're like, this would definitely go in his room. Is this man made? So they're going like this. And I'm like, this is great. And then they look up and they're like, holy shit, Casey Novak. And I'm like, will you guys take my elephant, please? It was so random. It was so random. So I got a bunch of ropes from the garage and we tied it to the top of their like Corolla, and they took it to be part of their kids' room, which had like kind of like an African safari vibe for their baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if they were ever able to get it to fit. I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. And like the funny
but we'll assume it was a no.
But also too, like there's this moment, like, if you're like selling an old car or something, you have to tell everyone the things that are wrong with it. Like there was like a moment where I'm like, I gotta tell you guys, the back left leg, real weak. If you weigh over like two, don't jump on it. Boom, it's just gonna go. Boom, boom. And I'm like, I gotta get full disclosure, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is so funny.
Danny. Okay, that story took forever. My apologies, everyone.
That was a wonderful story though.
And all of it 100% true. Yeah, what's up?
I had a surprise video to show you this week, but I forgot.
Oh my gosh.
So it's gonna have to wait till next week because we're already at the hour.
Do you know what I might give things away. I'll have to ask the gentleman caller, his mom and her boyfriend. I don't know how to describe because I'm trying not to give anything away. They're incredible performers. Very, very cool musicians, amazing. And over COVID, what they decided to do was start a band with just the two of them because they sing and play lots of instruments and stuff. And he learned how to use all this super funky editing software, and they make some videos that would blow your mind. And
really?
I'm gonna see if I have permission because those are worth a watching.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Like,
so next week we'll have a video week.
Yeah, baby.
That'll be fun. We'll just be like, it'll be a watch party.
Can we Danny, do you know what I always want? Like I'm trademarking this right now. This is a show that I always really wanted to do, and then we're gonna stop because this is going long. Actually, you know what? I'll talk to you about it off camera because if it's something we can do as a real show, we should do it as a real show because it's hilarious.
Okay. So sorry, you guys, you can't listen to this. Cover your ears. No.
Yeah, forget that part. But yeah, so I will walk us out. You guys, thank you for listening to some long and winding stories today of mine. Always never giving Danny enough time to talk, which is a damn shame. Boy, it's good. You're fun to listen to. Fun. like listening.
I don't know about that. I'm very grateful that I have you here. I don't think I could do a podcast alone because it would just be long, boring rambles. Whereas you actually have
like the ones I do?
things to say.
No,
no, wow. Yours are so funny. I was like, I'm going to talk about random. Anyway,
I love your random stuff. I was wrong about KFC, Danny. I believe that to the core of my being, and I was wrong. I was wrong, and I feel badly about being wrong, and I am sorry. I'm also sorry to everyone that ever had to listen to me talk about something really expensive when they couldn't afford a damn thing, and how annoying that must have been. And I don't regret the stories that I got from the elephant, but man, do I regret buying that elephant. But I will say this. Again, Bernie Williams, I cannot thank you enough, bottom of my heart, for saving me from buying like a $40,000 SUV and instead buying it for like $100,000 for no reason when I had just bought another one. So thank you, Bernie Williams, forever. Amazing. And on that note, Danny, I can't wait till next week. I'll see you then.
I will see you then.
And bye, everyone at home. Doodle. Doodle. I stole your line. Doodle.
It's okay. It's ours.
Thank you for sharing it with me today.